Welcome to The Road Ahead today. We're talking to Adam Hoge. We had a great conversation with him today. There's a lot of detail, but we talked about the Bears a lot today.
Adam's also a really good customer of ours, too. So for work or play, you got to choose Ray.
Well, with that, let's get into it today. We're here with Adam Hoge, CHGO, Chicago. Adam, maybe tell us a little bit about your show and what you exactly do.
Yeah, I've been covering the Bears this will be my 16th season coming up already. I always say like the actual job hasn't necessarily changed too much over the years. I've just been doing it for different outlets as I've kind of like moved up in my career. So it started when I was at The Score. Then I went back to WGN, which is actually where I started as an intern. And then I went to NBC Sports Chicago. And then this will be my 5th season now with CHGO, which has been the most different entity that I've done the same job for because, like doing something like this, we're on YouTube and it's a podcast and
Sure.
This is where all the media is going towards. And there's resistance to that from outsiders but the fans really love it. So it's the last few years in particular have been kind of a wild ride in a good way. But still covering the team and just hoping that, they're good. Because last year was very helpful and nice that
a lot of fun.
A lot of fun because most of those 16 years the team has not been a lot of fun and we're covering coaching searches and GM searches and things like that.
That's an interesting point. Does it make your job easier if they're better than if they were worse, or can you get gold out of bad and good?
So this is a great question because there's always this assumption, and I don't know if it's just like this overall like sort of doubt in media sometimes that's out there right now and probably in our culture, but there's like this assumption that negative clickbait is that's what gets the numbers and that so we're negative because that's going to move the needle and get more people to watch. And that could not be farther. That might be true in some areas. I don't know. Like other areas, like maybe in politics or something like that, where I'm not as, informed on how that media world works. But when it comes to sports, trust me, it's better when the teams are winning. Just trust me on that one. And depending what our specific job is in the medium, a lot of times we got to stay objective and try to be neutral, which is where sometimes, we're going to point out the bad that also came with the good. But no, when like last year, when the team was good, when Ben Johnson was fun and he's ripping his shirt off in post game,
right?
All of that, it was good for our numbers, good for our advertisers, and most importantly, it was fun for everybody. We were having fun with it too. And so, once it got to the playoffs, I guess the only downside is it technically extends the season and it's more work and there's really no days off at that point. But at that point, you're not really thinking about it because everybody's having so much fun. You don't care and you don't want the season to end. And we go to the Super Bowl every year anyway as our entity to do all these interviews. So it'd be great if the Bears were there one year with us.
What's Ben Johnson like as an interview?
So Ben's been great.
Compared to us, as an interview.
He's probably like a tick below you guys. Ben, I would still say we are still in this sort of getting to know him phase, even though it's been a full year. I always like to say that coaches don't really show their true colors until they go through a lot of adversity. And tends to be a lot of that in this town with the Bears. So, but I'll tell you this, the Bears, people kind of forget they started 0-2 last year and they got smoked in Detroit.
I remember our group chat.
Yeah, where he came from. And so, that would have been a perfect opportunity to kind of see the saltier side of him a little bit. And he was even keel. He's kind of, and that's what his players have said too. So, if they go through a really tough season, a tough, disappointing season where it lasts a few months, like maybe we'll see that. But here's the other part of that. Like he has been so impressive as a coach. that I don't know. I tend to think that the Bears have something really good here, and they're going to be good more times than not, as long as he's the coach. At least we all kind of hope that's the case. But, as intense as he is when he steps onto the football field, he is nothing but respectful and interesting. And
So he's good with the media.
yes, he tries to give us stuff.
Can I ask?
I have no complaints.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question on that. We go for culture in our business, in our organization. Ben Johnson, what kind of culture has he created from your vantage point?
That was very interesting to watch unfold. And of course, I'm inside the building, but I'm limited to one part of the building. So I'm not inside the team meeting rooms and all that. But part of what my job is supposed to be is to have enough contacts and conversations with people who, are inside, all the way inside, to kind of understand that. And that was super interesting, especially last summer and going, I would say, into the season to sort of track, because Ben, I thought, did a really good job of setting the expectations of what the culture was going to be day one.
Good, better, best.
Right. But that didn't come till later. You know what I mean?
I thought that was genius.
Yeah. Well, that ended up being like the perfect hook at the end. But from day one, it was, we're going to be physical, we're going to be intense, we're going to be detail oriented, and most importantly, we're going to be accountable to each other, which was something that I think really lacked during the Matt Eberflus era before him. From the first day that they got in the building with him, I remember one of the first practices, because whenever you have a new head coach, you're allowed to have an extra mini camp, which just basically means you get a few extra practices at the start of everything that kind of lay down the foundation, right? Give the players an idea of what to expect. And, he's out there yelling at everybody. It didn't matter if you're, one of the younger players or one of the veterans. I remember Cole Kmet, who's basically one of the longer tenured players on the team. And
Friend of the program, came to the dealership, actually. You remember that when we had that show there? Yeah.
Great
he lined up wrong on one play, and it didn't matter that he was the veteran. I mean, Ben blew the whistle, made them all re-huddle, kind of made a show out of it. I think he knew we were there too. The media was there. He wanted it to be probably made an example of it, right? And that never changed. And so from a culture perspective, I think if setting that foundation early, but then sticking to it, you can't just say you're going to do something.
Right.
If your actions don't follow it, then that's where you start to lose the culture. You start to lose the trust of whether it's your players or your employees or whatever.
Sounds like consistency.
Yes.
He's got good consistency throughout.
Which I think showed up when I brought up the 0-2 start, but also they won 9 out of 10 games later too, right? So the other side of it too, you got to have that same consistency as well.
And a lot of just signature moments, I think, too, through the season. We talk about it all the time. My dad and I love to talk about sports, specifically the Bears. That's probably the team we talk about the most. And I would say, one thing that I think is very interesting about you and really us just in general, and we have these sports conversations, is I guess when it comes to press and press credentials, opinions, right? I can have a take, we can have a take, right? Talking about the Bears and hey, we think, this player's bad, this player's good, whatever.
Right.
And then you guys kind of, that's your business. That's what you talk about. What makes your take different than say just a bunch of fans in our garage here talking, right? What's...
Well, I think the most important part of that, they work together, right? You gotta earn the right to work for an outlet that can be credentialed to get in there. And then once you're in there, it takes years to establish not just your relationships with people in the organization, but also just your footing within the room to be able to have the voice to ask questions and be respectful with those questions so you get the right. You got to know how to ask the questions. You can't just go in there guns blazing and, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that?
Does everybody get a turn? How does that work?
That's a whole separate, there's a whole symphony going on in there. We'll joke around later. We'll call them face-offs. Like when two reporters like yell out at the same time, like who sticks with it the longest, the question usually wins. So we'll have some fun with that too. But yeah, I mean, like the way I always looked at it was I have to earn the credibility for my opinion to matter. So it was, and it wasn't even, I would say, intentional. I think it just evolved over time to the point where I think I first earned it by maybe some of the questions I was asking, what I was writing, the information I was giving out, first of all, before it became any matter of what my opinions about what the Bears were doing, that really caught steam. And then the other thing that I think I've always been a little bit unique about in my approach, and I don't think this is something everybody can do. I think it's just, and I think there's multiple different ways to cover sports now, which I think is cool too. Yeah. And it sort of depends who you work for. But to me, the game of football has always mattered so much. So being able to come at it from more of a analyst role, like an informed analyst, was something, and again, I didn't like try to do that. I think it just sort of happened over time where I had all this information I was getting from the team and I was reporting it objectively with my background, because I went to school for journalism at the University of Wisconsin, and sort of adding to that over time my knowledge of football and also learning more about football. I didn't play football growing up, which is like a huge handicap I have of my own, like trying to talk about the game, because I can't, that'll never change. I can't go back in time and add that to the resume. So I just am always trying to learn as much as I can about the game, and that's the coolest part to me about the game of football is it's never ending. I mean, it's just constantly evolving. And that's how I ended up getting into coaching at the high school level too.
Because don't you coach at Carmel?
Yeah. I used to be there a little bit more full time and as the special teams coordinator. Now I'm still on the fringe helping out where I can because it eventually became too much.
Aren't there a bunch of former Chicago Bears that are coaching there too?
It's an all-star cast. I mean, Jason McKee, a former Bears fullback, is the head coach there. He's done a tremendous job with the program. Rasheed Davis has held a various different roles all over the offensive side of the ball. Olin Kreutz was our offensive line coach for a while. And I mean, the amount of knowledge that he had to share with those guys up front, I mean, made our offensive line so good. So yeah, there's those kids are pretty spoiled with what they're getting, and I'm just in there like trying to learn and do what I can. But what was cool about that, doing special teams with those guys, was Rasheed and J-Mac were on the Super Bowl Bears team. That lost to the Colts in the Super Bowl. Well, the special teams coordinator was Dave Tobe, who, in my opinion, is
the best,
the GOAT, in terms of special teams coordinators. And so a lot of the stuff that I was learning from them to coach to our kids, that was Dave Tobe stuff. So I'm in there like learning NFL, like this is NFL stuff that we're doing. And I didn't get into that to just, selfishly to help my job. I've always just wanted to coach and get involved with the kids and have that impact there. And then as a byproduct of all that, I realized, oh my goodness, this is helping me so much to do my day-to-day job too in covering the Bears. And so much of that ended up becoming part of the show, part of covering the team, how we do the show. I mean, I spent a lot of my week with a microphone in front of me talking about the Bears.
You could teach us a thing or two.
There's only so much you can say. So the more I can come at it from an analytical side of things, where I can go watch film and come up with something new that I didn't see before and bring it to the fans, that's really it. But that just sort of totally evolved over time, and it has made the job more fun for me too.
Now you're a family guy. Mm-hmm. How do you find time to balance it all? You know, with the shows and the coaching, and how do you find the time? Yeah,
so that's the real answer to why I backed off the coaching. It was it right there, because my wife was awesome, and I think they love the games. My kids love the games, and
how old are your kids?
My kids are now 11 and 5. My daughter's about to turn 5 this month, and then my son James will be 12 in July. So we got a little bit of an age gap there. But yeah, James would run around. He'd come to the practices, run around, be one of the ball boys, stuff like that. So there were a lot of positives. But to your point, and I don't think I knew this going into it. I mean, when you're coaching football really at any level, especially football more so than other sports, that is like, it's a full-time job in and of itself. And I felt paranoid all the time. And I think most coaches, this probably can bring the conversation back to even Ben Johnson, especially when you're coaching at that level. Like, you just kind of always feel paranoid that you're missing something, or you're not prepared, or you're going to miss this and not be prepared for this look that you're going to see in the game. It can kind of drive you crazy. And so eventually I got kind of to the point where I was like, I don't know that I'm doing any of these jobs to the best of my ability, because it became too much. And then, by the way, that includes being a dad too, right?
Yeah, that's why I ask.
Yeah, and that's where you can't let it go that far. So I did back off the coaching a little bit. I sort of stay involved in the program and help where I can. But
there's got to be a lot of work that goes, into your job for research and review and kind of preparing for your job. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, that is spending way more time doing that than you actually do. I mean, technically, our CHGO Bears show is an hour every day. Right. So if you're just a fan tuning in, you'd be like, man, these guys have it so good. All they got to do is do 1 hour.
Just talk like a bunch of guys.
They work an hour a day, 5 days a week. That can't be that hard. And they're just talking about the Bears. But similar to the coaching thing, I think I always have this paranoia built into me that, like, I'm going to say something stupid, or I'm not going to have the answer to this question.
Right.
And so you're just trying to be prepared for whatever gets thrown at you, because you don't always know what's going to get thrown at you. And so there is a ton of prep. And then also in my specific role for us, I sort of unofficially lead our Bears crew. And so even this morning as we're sitting here, I spent 3 hours trying to plan out the next few months from now until training camp, because in a weird way, this can actually be kind of our hardest time of year, because things actually slow down, but we still have a show every day. So we still got to talk football.
You have to come up with content. And that's honestly, I think, one of the main reasons why I listen to your show is I actually really like the off season, because especially now, because the Bears have, in my opinion, been back to back off season champs. Like right now, big topic of conversation is, hey, where they going to be playing in a couple of years? Are they going to be playing in the city? Are they going to be playing in Arlington Heights? Are they going to be playing in Indiana? And you've kind of been the authority figure for that information. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Just with the stadium stuff in particular.
Just in particular.
So that really came, and this applies to a bunch of stuff that we do, but like, like anything else, the stuff that interests you, you're going to spend a little bit more time. So honestly, I could probably trace this all the way back to when I was a kid. We used to go to Arlington Park for Mother's Day almost every year, at least weather permitting. That
was a nice day.
Yeah. I mean, they would have a great, and then sometimes we go for the Derby too, but it was kind of a Mother's Day tradition where we would go up to Arlington. I lived in the city.
You went to St. Ignatius, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I wouldn't say I've ever been like a massive horse racing fan, but enough that like I kind of follow the business a little bit. And it became, when it started to become obvious that they might be selling to Arlington, by then I'd been covering the team for a decade and was well versed in some of the struggles with Soldier Field and how the team, even though at that point probably had 13 years left on their agreement with Soldier Field, would probably be interested in that property, which the Bears' flirtation with Arlington Heights goes back to like the 70s.
Would you have some family members living there?
In Arlington?
The Hallis family.
Didn't they? Yeah. They have family kind of all over the area.
Right.
Don't they have like a bar in Arlington Heights too? Like, they have like in the downtown area? I remember hanging out down there, and somebody was telling me that like some of the family own like property in Arlington Heights, and
they like, you can go. There's like newspaper clippings from the 70s where they're, talking about that as a long-term option. So anyway, like I remember I was working for NBC at the time, and I wrote a column like almost immediately, being like, and I came at it from a kind of that personal perspective. Like, I don't really want to see Arlington Park go away. I love Arlington Park, but if it has to go away, what a perfect location for the Bears to finally own a piece of land and build their own stadium and be able to profit off a mega entertainment complex like some of these other franchises are able to do.
Because aren't they one of the few teams that don't own their stadium and don't have like naming rights, and they miss out on a lot of revenue streams from that? That's why this is really kind of coming to a head.
Yeah, and some teams do it differently. You know, for instance, the Vikings, they have US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis is actually my favorite stadium in the NFL. They ended up not owning that stadium. It was actually kind of similar to how the White Sox stadium was built through like a government entity but what they were still able to do was build a training complex out in the suburbs so imagine Hallis Hall and Lake Forest, but if there was an entertainment complex built around that. You know, so they still all own this land. And so these teams are figuring out, like, we can get more control and more revenue streams that come in through this stuff that, oh, by the way, we don't have to share that with the players. Because anything you earn through the games, you have to, there's revenue sharing with the NFLPA, right? So, but if you do it from outside all that, those revenue streams do not have to be shared. So it's putting more money in the owner's pockets, but it also in other ways can help fuel the business around the team, which coming all the way around can help you as a franchise win more football games if you do it correctly. And so, I think in a lot of ways the Bears are kind of lacking that, and I think they're trying to create that and have been. Now it's obviously been really, really complicated because I think I wrote that column 6 or 7 years ago now. And we're almost 4 years removed from a town hall that they had in Arlington Heights that I remember covering. It's been a wild ride trying to figure all that out.
Would you give us odds, Adam, if it was going to be stay in Chicago, it was going to be Arlington, or it was going to be Indiana? Well, how would you? Yeah,
so I mean, depending on when this comes out, we might already have that answer because the clock is ticking down in Springfield at the end of May. But I really haven't wavered from this. Like, Arlington Heights has always made the most sense to me. That's where they want to be. It's pretty obvious. I do think personally, I think it's kind of sad that they might be leaving the city. It's too bad that they couldn't. I mean, the Bears should be playing in Chicago, but I could do 3 podcasts on why they're not going to be in all the roadblocks. So I do think that Arlington Heights is kind of the perfect compromise. And I ultimately think that when cooler heads prevail, the politicians, right now it's in the Senate, they'll figure out a way to make that happen. But man, it's been complicated, and I think that they've kind of put way too many stipulations and try to please way too many people. It goes way beyond. These mega projects now go way beyond just one stadium, even though this kind of is all about the Bears Stadium. So that's too bad. I will say this, like, the proposal that Indiana came up with, I don't know if I don't live in that state. It doesn't seem to me like it would be a winner for the taxpayers there personally. But what a great deal for the Bears. It's got to be tempting, where they're basically, it's like the equivalent of, hey, we'll loan you a stadium that in 40 years you can
keep
it, and in that time period you can still earn the money off. It's not like we're going to keep all the revenue until you completely own it. So it sounds like a great deal for them, and it's honestly even closer to the city than Arlington Heights is. But I think just
that's the part that people I don't think realize.
It's not far.
Yeah,
it's not far.
How do you think the base is going to respond?
Exactly. It's just the idea of the Chicago Bears not being in the state of Illinois.
It would make that the fights on Pride and Joy of Illinois a little awkward if we were in Indiana.
But aren't there other professional teams? Giants, right?
Giants and Jets play in New Jersey.
You know,
I think they're technically the only ones that play across state lines. But as George McCaskey put it, the Republic survived when they moved there. And then there's a ton of other teams that play. Like the Giants Jets situation is comparable because it's it's not far. I mean, it's New York City, so it's hard to get around. I've actually taken the train from Manhattan across the river, and then you got to switch to another train. But you can do it. But it's actually not terribly far from Manhattan. Whereas, like, the 49ers, we were just out there for the Super Bowl this year. I mean, that Super Bowl was held between San Francisco, San Jose, Santa Clara, and Oakland. There were 4 different cities hosting it, and everything was in a different location.
Yeah.
So,
not close.
no, I mean, the stadium's a good hour from where let's just say where Candlestick used to be, where they played. Now, here's the thing: people don't actually that gets often brought up as a reason to do it, and sort of ignores the fact that most people that live there don't love it.
Right.
So it doesn't make it right, which is why I always come back to it's just a shame that they couldn't figure it out in Chicago. If Arlington Heights ends up being the spot, though, it does seem to be the perfect piece of land. I think the Bears can build something great there, and everybody will eventually be pretty happy with it.
Well, because I think like people, I know like for me, when I attend a sporting event, it's not just the game, it's the entertainment around the game that's a component. Like I think one of the biggest hindrances for me for Soldier Field, tailgating.
Yeah.
There really isn't a tailgating scene there. And one of the big things with tailgating, right, and we know a thing or two about tailgating because we saw a lot of trucks, right? I think that is part of what reduces the chances of it being really in the city is just the entertainment complex around it, because people like, and really like a majority of their fan base is in the suburbs, kind of like where we live, and I think that it does make a lot of sense.
Which is one of the concerns about them being in Indiana, right? Because
yes,
I mean the fans are everywhere, but there is a season ticket holder base that tends to skew to the north a little bit. The tailgating thing is a good point because we actually, I think, have probably the best tailgate situation before Bears games, and would encourage fans to come down if they want. Our CHGO tailgates are awesome. It's on one of the few empty lots that still exists down there. But to your point, Ray, like if you come down, we have a good tailgate setup, but it's not a massive parking lot where everybody can kind of set up with their trucks and grills and stuff like that. It's kind of like a bunch of fun tailgates all put together, more like a big party. And I've never measured. We might be a mile away from the stadium from where we actually are. We're at Cermak, and Wabash and Cermak is where we're at. So I mean, it's not that bad of a walk, but it kind of, to your point, if they had a stadium where everybody could get their trucks from Ray and come down there and have a great tailgate right there next to the stadium, that would be nice too.
We'd be all up for that.
We'd love that.
Sea full of trucks from Ray.
We'd love that. And didn't you get a truck from us? Like, and it was before we even like advertised with you guys. Like,
no, now there's people, friends of mine from when I was a kid in the city that are like, wait, you had a truck at one point? They're probably shaking their heads at that. But I came in and before I knew either of you guys, I came into the dealership and leased this Silverado from you guys for a few years. And then somewhere in there was when, we hooked up between CHGO and Ray and had this great partnership that we have now. But yeah, I was doing business with you guys before I even knew you.
We have to say thank you for that too.
Yeah. No, I mean that, but that's one of the great things I think about coming in. Now I come into the dealership more as a friend of yours and kind of know everybody. But I mean, my first experience coming in there was what we talk about every time we do one of your ad reads on our show was, the feeling like I was getting taken care of and getting a good deal and being treated fairly, and that was all from people I didn't know walking in there for the first time, and that's all true.
And that's first person.
Yeah,
you're talking from the heart, and that's kind of what we like as well. Sincerity, and it comes out in you. So we appreciate everything, and we appreciate how you represent us on the show. And when you talk about our dealership and you do the reads. And
Well, it's been fun to come out, and we've done shows at the dealership. But I mean, the charity efforts that you guys do, unfortunately, Jeeps on the Run there's usually a Bears game on those days. But a couple years ago, it happened to be the Bears bye week, and so I was able to participate in that with the family, and everybody had a great time. And the fact that you guys donate an actual Wrangler every year to be auctioned off through the raffle.
And now you got one. You just got one from us.
I finally convinced my wife to let me get one.
How fun is it?
I love it.
Good.
I love it. And I put Ray to work on that one. I was like, hey, my first car.
I'm glad you put him to work.
Like, my first car was red. I want a red one. I want a 4xe. And I did a ton of research and was kind of being pretty particular about it. But I've kind of the car buying thing. I've been kind of like dating for a long time, bouncing from car to car to car.
With leasing.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think I kind of finally want to have a car that I have for, we'll see, but like 7 to 10 years would be great, at least, to really own one. So that was sort of the vision, and Ray was awesome helping me find the right one, and it's been a few weeks, and I love it.
So Adam, I know we talked about press credentials and fandom and how my dad and I love to talk about sports, right? And we're fans. But how can fans essentially do what you're doing? Like, how can they get to that level? So,
I mean, I guess it depends on what age you're at, where you're coming at. I mean, if you're young enough that, you can still go to school and have some type of background in journalism, like that's, I would say, ideally the starting point. It doesn't mean that you're blocked from entry into the business. If not, though. But for me, it was just like, I guess the way I would answer that is, make sure it's what you really want to do.
Is this a hard business?
Because it's hard to get into, and as much as we've sit here in a lot of these interviews I'll talk about how much fun it is, and 100% is fun. Like any other job, there are plenty of other headaches, and I don't know if you guys follow it, but people are getting laid off in our business all the time too. So it's hard, even once you're in it and you feel like you're established, you can't assume that you are, because it's just kind of crazy how the business is constantly changing. And so you got to really have the ability to stay in it and really want to do it, especially because one thing I can promise you is you're not going to make very much money to start. So I was very fortunate to have my wife, who I met in college, who had a very stable occupational therapy job when we were living in the city. And I think about that all the time. Without her income at that time and stability, I don't know that I would still be here today doing it. I probably would not be. Like a lot of that I have to, I owe to her, because I was making like $60 a shift producing shows at the Score as a part-time employee with no benefits.
Did you work for Dan Bernstein and those guys?
Yeah.
Or work with them? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a blast. We lost Terry this year, and going back down memory lane with all of those Who Needs To Tavern tours that I got to go out and produce.
That was the infancy of talk radio for sports. Those guys.
Yeah. I mean, the score becoming a thing and sticking around despite a lot of people assuming they wouldn't. Not unlike CHGO launching 5 years ago.
Yeah. And look at you now. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's cool. It's just the progression, right? The generational progression. Like Dave Kaplan's also friend of the dealership, and didn't you have some experience too with Dave?
Yeah, Cap was the first guy I interned for coming out.
Great guy.
Him, Dave Ennett, and Mark Carmen, who Mark's now my co-host on CHGO Bears. At the time, he was Cap's producer, and I was the intern. So I always joke with Carm, it was a great internship because as he napped at his cubicle all the time, I did all the producing for Cap. It was great. I got the best experience I could have.
Mark Harmon, also a customer.
Yes, absolutely. His Chevy Trax. So, it's you got to have the stamina for it, I would just say. But there are also examples like Greg Braggs, who was a bricklayer for like 20 years and managed. He found the little crack in the door and burst right through it. and has not let it shut at all behind him. And so and he came at it from more of the, like, I'm assuming some people listening to this will relate, is just a fan listening to CHGO
Right.
or listening to the score, listening to Sports Talk Radio, whatever it is, because they're so obsessed with the team. Maybe they call in, maybe there are super chatters in the show. And you know, I think if you just try to establish those relationships and those connections, and that's the last thing I would say that I would say is so valuable about what we do at CHGO, and I think is valuable to our advertisers too, is the
It's authentic.
Well, it's authentic, and the people watching, like you were saying earlier, Ray, about how you're still watching in June and July.
Oh, yeah.
When it's pretty much our dead season, because that's how much you care. Well, that's why we call them our CHGO diehards, because these are truly to me, it's about loyalty, and these are the people that are most loyal to their team that they root for, which makes them loyal to us. They're loyal to us because they're continually watching the show, and then that also makes them, from my perspective, you know, perfect customers to advertisers, because they're going to be loyal to certain brands. Like I've, you know, been loyal to you guys at Ray since I had that experience coming in for the truck years ago, and so I think all of that tends to come full circle, and I think that's part of what we do is we are trying to be so authentic and give ourselves access to these Bears fans. And reminder, we do Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We cover all the teams too, but we try to get out there with them. We go to events.
Your visibility.
We're accessible to these fans to the point that I know so many of them by their first, in some cases, last names too, because we see them all the time. And that's the one thing I think we can really hang our hat on at CHGO is we do that better than any other media outlet. And that's not talking down to other things. There's only so much you can do through a TV, right? But we're out there. We were with the people, and I
the
think
shirts are cool,
and the merch.
And if I can add, it really comes through that you enjoy what you're doing, and if you enjoy and you like what you're doing, it's not work anymore. It shows. So I have to compliment you.
Thank you. Yeah. And sometimes there are days where I got to remind myself of that. I will admit it. You are talking football for a living. You're very lucky to do it, and we all love football here. So let's hope there's another big, fun, exciting season to talk about all
Bears.
year. Yeah.
Thanks.
The savings just keep getting hotter at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. Stop in and save big all month long during the summer sales event, where you can get up to $12,000 off MSRP on brand new Chevrolet models. With our huge selection, you're sure to find the perfect ride. But the deals won't last long, and you won't want to miss these savings, like up to $12,000 off MSRP. So hurry in to the summer sales event at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake, or shop raychevrolet.com. Serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
On select vehicles with approved credit, MSRP may not reflect actual selling price, may not be combined with other offers. See dealer for details. Offer expires June 30th, 2026.
So one thing that I think is really, really, really interesting, that we're one of the few dealerships in the area to do this, is mobile service. Could you tell us, Dad, like a little bit about mobile service and how that works?
You know, the concept is really what appealed to, I think, us in terms of kind of our direction for our dealership is we want to meet the customer where they're at.
Exactly.
And that's what mobile service does for our customers. We go to them, you know, we go to their home, and it's such a great time saver for people. We have a mobile service van, as you know, that we've invested heavily in.
And not just the van, but we have another Equinox too, right?
That's right. And I'll make the announcement at the end, but I've got another announcement that we could talk about. But that's right, Ray. We've got both. And the van does 101 services, and it can do most maintenance items in somebody's driveway or parking lot, depending upon home or work.
Yeah, and I got like a whole list here. Oil changes.
That's right.
Battery replacement, brake work, some basic diagnostics, software updates, here, all of those items, I mean, they're so huge. Like for somebody like me, where like, hey, like generationally speaking, I think like a lot of people are, right, like they'll DoorDash in food, right, instead of cooking. So instead of going to the dealership, like, hey, I'll have this mobile service van come do some maintenance. So I think that's a big win.
Family friend, and you know them very well. They own a Tesla.
Yep.
And as you know, that's an electric vehicle. And this girl came up to me and said, we're thinking of a Tahoe, to buy a Tahoe for our family. They just had a baby. And I said, it's a great family vehicle, and we're doing mobile service, kind of like Tesla, except better. And we'll come to the house. And she said, that's awesome, because we just had this baby and I'm working from home, and, my husband works, he's out. I don't have time to go to the dealership. And that really hit home why mobile service is so important for a lot of people. And it's something we offer that nobody in our area really does. So we're really happy to provide that to people. Another great story why mobile service makes sense is that I had a customer, I let her know that we had mobile service. I told her, and she said, I thought she was going to cry, Ray. She said, I have my special needs boy at home. I can't bring my boy to the dealership because, of his attention that he needs. And she said, this just is perfect. She was so grateful. And, it's a time saver. It's a lifestyle thing, but it's also practical. Would you say it's expensive?
No, it's not expensive at all. That's kind of one thing that we're talking about in this conversation, that kind of like demystifying that. Everybody thinks that it's this giant cost on top of the service, and it's really not. And especially too, imagine being a business owner. You've got a fleet of trucks that you dispatch out, or a fleet of vans doing HVAC work, what have you. I'm just using that as an example. And you tie up one of those vans and people at a dealership for a few hours. So that's revenue that they're losing when they can just call up and schedule with our mobile service and have a van come to their business and work on all of their vans. Don't you have an example of that?
We have a company that we do business with. They have 450 vehicles in their fleet, 450. And we schedule a weekly service to them. What we found out is we gave them a price list of all of the services, some of them that you covered just a little while ago, what the van can do. And they could not believe that we were going to come to them, service their vehicles, and be as price competitive. We beat their maintenance costs on their current vehicles that they had to go to the shop to get done.
Right. And not every business has a mechanic on site to work on all these vehicles. So this is a huge relief and time savings for them too. And money savings, really, right. In a lot of ways.
That's right. A lot of times, even if you do have in-house people, we can take care of the recall work.
Right.
We can take the recall work. And this company found out that many of their vehicles in their fleet had been neglected for recalls. And we did them on the spot and kept them compliant. And if you're an owner of a vehicle that doesn't have a recall that's not done, you don't want that on the road without you taking care of it, because it's ultimately your responsibility, because it's your asset.
Exactly. And another kind of like just throwing out some like real world situations where this could be applicable and for you is here we spoke to Adam earlier, right? He coached high school football, and imagine, you could potentially miss, your kids, football game or practice, right? If you're a coach, hey, I got to go to the dealership and get this work done, because transportation is so key. Imagine being like in his situation, being a coach, having the mobile service van come to the parking lot, meeting him there, say, hey, this is what I need done. Boom. That's a ton of time back into your day while you're doing your job. So I think that's just, it fills in a lot of gaps. And I think that's the thing that I really like about it, that we offer that at our dealership.
It's another dimension for our customers. We'll meet them where they're at. Not everybody wants mobile service because they have such a great relationship and a great experience with our advisors at the dealership that they like to come in.
Sure.
And they can do that too. We have very flexible hours too. We're open late at night in our service department till 7 o'clock, and we're open till 2 on a Saturday. So we're convenient to do business with. We have loaner cars. But
can't the mobile service van can coordinate a loaner drop-off as well. Right. Kind of talk a little bit about how that process works.
So we do 3 things. When you have mobile service, we can do one of 3 things. Mobile service will come to you, or pick up and delivery. Third thing we'll do is we'll guarantee a loaner car. So ask for mobile service. All 3 of those services are really advantageous for our customers and for people that really don't want to be inconvenienced, really want to make the most of their time, and really enjoy the freedom that mobile will give them. And you can do it with us.
And and I think the big point to hammer on here is, not every repair can happen mobily, but many of the most common maintenance needs can, and that's where mobile service really fills in those gaps for convenience.
And transparency as well. Every time we come out, we send you a multi-point vehicle inspection.
Of what was done.
What the condition of the vehicle is. This is all free. And we do a video. We do a video of your vehicle, and we give you both of that. So you can keep that for your files. You can look at that and make informed decisions if and when you need to do needed services. And so our transparency is there, and our technicians that do come out are great. They're trained. They have great tools on board. We use Hunter equipment, Snap-on tools. We use General Motors oil. If it's a General Motors product, we'll come out for Ford. We come out for...
Doesn't have to be a Chevy.
No, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. We do all brands. And so we're ready, and we can do tires. If you need tires, we can do tires on the spot. We have a Hunter tire balancer and tire changing machine. So there's some real serious equipment. There's an air compressor on there, and it's amazing what this van can do.
And that's ultimately the theme, is mobile service will come to you.
That's for sure, Ray. We'll come to you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. Explore our inventory, schedule service, and learn more about everything happening at Ray Auto Group using the links below. Follow the podcast and join the conversation by liking, commenting, and sharing your thoughts. As a listener of The Road Ahead, you'll receive a free oil change from Ray Auto Group. Details are linked below. Follow Ray Auto Group on social media for updates, clips, tips, and future episodes. Thanks for listening to The Road Ahead. We'll see you next time.